Hello and welcome to The Brand Called You. Today, the brand is Hemal Randerwala. Hemal is the founder and chairman of Godharmic. He's an author of 3 books, founder and director of Arjun Global, a global tech and financial services recruiting firm. He's well educated with an MBA from Oxford. Welcome to the show, Hemal.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Let's start off with your prime focus, as I understand it, which is running this organization that you have been building with a passion of love over the last decade or more called Godharmic. It seems to be doing a lot of different things, from food distribution to libraries, emergency response. What is the vision? What brings this whole thing together, and why did you start it?
Well, I came across a saint from India called Neem Karoli Baba, and his message was very simple: love everyone, feed everyone, serve everyone. And it was through listening to the chants of a New Yorker actually called Krishna Das that I was completely blown away by the chanting of his music, and he really connected with something very deep, perhaps a deeper essence of you that perhaps I felt, much of life was becoming very superficial and, materialistically driven. And this seemed to connect with something very deep. And when I began reading about him and learning more about his senior Ram Das, as well as Neem Karoli Baba, I really found this connection to something that I felt was a deeper sense of self, a deeper sense of self-worth, a deeper sense of reality and joy. And then when I read the messages, it was all love everyone, feed everyone, help others, serve people, help the poor. These were the messages that brought about that state. So that was in essence the root of BD.
So Neem Karoli Baba is quite well known, and even internationally and globally, and even more so after he has been named in biographies of people like Jobs and Zuckerberg and things like that. How was your interaction? When did this happen? What introduced you to go into this direction to begin with?
Nothing really. I was just standing on my balcony in East London, looking over Canary Wharf, and then just for some reason decided to play Krishna Das, Hanuman Chalisa, and that one instance is something when I connected with that Chalisa, the sound or the sound vibration, or the heart of the song was like a calling for me, and since that moment, life changed direction. And then when Krishna Das came to London, I met him and I said, look, I want to come to the hills, to the foothills of the Himalayas, and go and spend some time there and really connect. And he joked, what the hell do you want to go there for? It's frozen. The Himalayas are frosted over. It was December. He said, come to Rishikesh with me. So then I took my wife, my young family, my young son with me. He was just 1 at the time. We went out and spent glorious weeks together in Neem Karoli Baba Ashram in Rishikesh. And I think this is not an optional choice, or it's not something that, you do. You just feel away and you become, or you are. I don't think it's something of a rational decision or a career choice.
Very interesting. And in terms of feed everyone, love everyone, serve everyone, you see, a lot of people hear that message, but very few act on it. But you have since then gone ahead and created a whole organization with lots of dedicated volunteers and good work being done in many, many different locations. Tell us a bit more about the the actual organization? It's volunteer run only, and where all does it work, and what kind of initiatives specifically does it focus on?
So Godharmic's been going for 10 years this year. It has 4 registered charities, England, Scotland, the US, and India, and started here in the UK, really just going into central London, seeing homeless people and distribute with a desire to just distribute some food, just to help people who are on the streets, perhaps going through mental health crisis, addiction, difficulty, struggle, suffering. So, you know, from that spiritual root, I kind of understood that the root of all spiritual traditions is the removal of suffering. And it seems that the state of moksha or enlightenment, or whatever you want to call it, is a state of joy beyond suffering, where suffering is removed. And one of Neem Karoli's messages was, why do you want to go up there to heaven? Why don't you make this a heaven for everyone? Like, you know, the very famous quote where he says that. And for me, that really resonated and said, you know, it's, why would you want to speak about a certain state when you don't want to share that state with those around us? So if people are struggling or going through difficult times, or mental health issues, or food poverty, people struggling to feed their children, it is not right for us to speak high-minded thoughts but not care about the reality of their situation. I think it's superficial. Then, you know, it goes against the ideas that you perhaps are preaching. I think Vivekananda really spoke to me, you know, when he said that, you know, food is God for the poor, or that kind of a message, and you know, and therefore you have to act upon the ideas that you are proclaiming to follow, and you know, have a little bit of electric energy to do that work, you know, because you can kind of understand them sitting on a mountaintop and, you know, just kind of care about yourself, but in reality, are you expressing that? And Dr. Nicholas Sutton, one of my co-authors of the books, he always shares that the highest state of spiritual, a truly spiritual person cannot help but feel the suffering of others and therefore act upon it.
So we've seen people who got that call and connected like you did. How old were you when this incident happened? You had a young family. This was, how old were you, if I may ask?
27.
So we've heard stories of people who somehow got connected, left everything, became a monk. We obviously have a lot of stories of people who did that at a certain age in life, after they had done a lot of stuff. You seem to have been doing both. You also run or set up a firm for recruiting in technology and fintech. How have you processed this? Tell me, how does Arjun Global doing work fit with Godharmic?
Difficultly. It's not easy. I don't find it easy to balance the two, because one has such a higher priority over the other. But I felt that, you know, the balance in ordinary life is shifted to, if we consider 4 goals being a peaceful mind, I kind of look at them like 4 P's for me. I use them as purpose, which perhaps is dharma, prosperity, artha, that we should all prosper, karma, which is pleasure, and then moksha, which could be peace. So you have these 4 goals which can kind of balance one's life. And I feel that everybody I had known in the first phase of my life was completely engrossed in only 2 of those goals. It was only enjoyment, pleasure, and prosperity. There was no active interest in becoming more peaceful or finding a more calmer state of mind, or a more joyous state of existence, which is more stable and not dependent upon sensory gratification. And then you had Dharma, which was completely, there was like, it's everybody for themselves. It's not, no longer about the family, the larger extended family unit, but the family getting smaller and smaller, and until it's just an individual against an individual. And I felt, that this was out of sync with the way of nature, the way of well-being for us as individuals as well as for communities. When you hear about happiness being the number of social connections and friendships and circles and networks that you have being directly correlated, this was against that, and it felt that balancing was required. So I felt Godharmic was a call to action to balance that aspect to people. So it was never just about a single cause. It was always about the community or the people coming together to share, wanting to help others and to extend the heart to others.
So you feel that this Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha should be pursued simultaneously throughout the life in balance?
I think Dharma could be the foundation of it, the most important of the four, and then the others operate in line with Dharma. Where Dharma is not there as the foundation, then the others can be lost. So you need the core foundation to be Dharma, and I think the Gita clearly discusses that kind of philosophy. That in one of the very famous verses, Krishna says, "I am karma that is in line with Dharma," and that's really nice because I'm pleasure in line with Dharma. So not just any pleasure, which is out of moral behavior or out of ethical way of existing. It's within and balancing with. And I think when any of the areas of life, whether that be business or whether that be relationships, is not in line with a way of being that acts for the welfare of ourselves and for others, then damage becomes.
Okay. You've also started using a second name. I don't know if you have officially changed it or not. You go by Hanuman Das. Why a second name? And tell our audience, what does it signify for you?
So this is when I was thinking about a brand called You, and you were bringing up this subject, I thought, okay, what is the brand called You? Because it's not something that I ever really consider representing or speaking about. For me, the world for people who are caught in many worlds and directions is quite complex and difficult. Am I Indian? Am I English? Am I both or neither? Am I an OCI? Is that an overseas citizen of India and a British citizen? Am I in industry trying to make a living and sustain family as well as ensure safeguarding family interests and wealth and all of these different questions, but at the same time touching base with other places. And I came across Ramdas, who was he wrote an incredible book, which I'll show you. It's called Be Here Now. This was one of the main books that inspired Steve Jobs and many other great people. And Ramdas was Richard Alpert, was a Harvard professor. He blew my world with his, he said, India has the maps of consciousness, which we are in the West at Harvard are just scratching the surface. And he really blew my mind. And, when I started Godharmic and I was doing this work and, I met him, we spent a lot of time together. And he said, I will call you Hanuman Das. And And that means servant of the servant of God. And so when I, think about the work that we do and how easily the ego can get lifted and the ego can, think that we are doing all this stuff, that reminder there that, hey, you're just a servant. To be the spoon. Don't think that you're making this happen. Just carry the prasad and distribute it in that spirit where it's just about the work. It's just about helping people and serving. And for me, that's my personal reminder. That's what, the most incredible human being who I've ever met has given me that, reminder. And therefore, if somebody wants to call me Hemal, they're very welcome to. If somebody wants to call me Hanuman Das, they're very welcome. And if they've got more aggressive language that they wish to use, which some of my school friends might use, then they're welcome to that as well. So I think, look, a name is a name. There's many things beyond it, but it's my personal practice. For me, it's a heart thing. That's my heart connection to the lineage of Neem Karoli Baba and honoring that. And who better person to give the glory of all of this work is than to Hanuman. Like when we are able to do that, he was the exemplar of selfless service and compassionate action. And so in that lineage of Hanuman, to have that honor and that name and that service is, for me, is the greatest blessing. And look, it's not always going to work in the world of business. And I worked in industry, and people are going to question, like, oh, what is this separate name, or what is that? But I just say, look, it's a spiritual initiation. It's a name that was given. Doesn't mean that much, or Vishnu has 1,008 names. Vishnu Sahasranam. So I think I'll be.
But it brings back something specific to your mind. It's a good reminder, as you said, that you are doing this with an attitude of service, and it means something that way. As I'm listening to this and I'm kind of reflecting on your journey, well, as they say that whatever happens has an effect on how ready you are to receive a particular message. So you heard a Hanuman Chalisa on your balcony and changed your life, and you did something. How did you grow up as a child, as a young person in first 27 years that you think influenced you to be ready to receive that message? I don't know how many other people were there in that building who were listening to the same song, or how many people around the world today listen to the same Hanuman Chalisa, but not everyone obviously does what you did. So I'm kind of interested in hearing what happened in the first 27 years that you think influenced you in a way to receive that transformation at a particular time.
I think, I grew up in a very loving household. We have a huge family on both mother and father's side, and we were all very close. And grandparents on both sides, lots of cousins, lots of family. And I think what many Westerners experienced with Neem Karoli Baba and Maharaji was the love. They felt like they were in grandfather's abode, feeding them food and chai, and bringing them into that spirit where they felt unbelievable love. And I felt that reflecting upon that childhood that we were so blessed to have was training ground for extending that family and that love that you have, which is so close. And now it becomes very natural for me to extend my family, because I was given that training by my parents and my grandparents and cousins and aunties, and we were very close. And the love that they extend through feeding one another and helping each other and sharing that then Maharaji taught me to extend that and to open that wider. I also, my dad came to the UK with £25 in his pocket and, with nothing, no English language, no education. My mum was already here. She was born in the UK, but
You said your mom was already in UK? She was born in UK?
Yeah, my mum was born in the UK. But my grandparents' generation came from the influx. A lot of them came from Africa, East Africa, after Idi Amin, through the Indians out of Africa, and we had many people living in the house that we grew up in. So it was a very poor area in Luton, and then to come up, they had to work extremely hard. So I think we saw a lot of love and an extremely hard work ethic, and I think a lot of Indians who came worked in corner shops and small newsagents stores around the UK, and that was their thing. When most of the regular shops used to work 9 to 5 and close on Monday to Friday, the Indians were working 7 till 7 and opening on Saturdays and Sundays, and therefore they found their area and niche, and were able to come up and grow, and we lived in a shop. So I saw extreme hard work. My dad used to run 2 shops at the same time, so he used to work from 6 till 5, and then run another shop from 5 till 10. So I've seen firsthand that we used to wait for him to come back after 10 p.m. and then eat dinner together as a family, and that work ethic, I think much later in life, I've carried forward and wanted to, express now that, we have some different kind of skills where we can actually make a difference for others. I think.
Yeah, very interesting. So, as they say, there is bhakti, there is gyan, there is karma. Seems like you are in a mixture of bhakti and karma kind of a path. Would you say that? Would you say that you're driven by devotion or driven by action?
So I think it's, again, comes back to love all, feed all, serve all. Love all, feed all, serve all, and remember God. That was the kind of core message of Maharaji. And I think, bhakti and seva are intertwined. I think bhakti is a service tradition. If you see any of the bhakti parts, they all end with the name Das, which means servant. So, it's serving out of love. And ultimately, whether you're serving God within other human beings or animals or the earth itself, or you're making offerings in the temple, or you're offering your own mind that meditation or that path yourself, then I think you're serving the greater essence of who you are and the world at the same time. So I really don't see any difference. I think there is, between serving in a temple or feeding people. It's the same.
Same thing. Okay. Changing gears a little bit, and again trying to bring out the contrast in your world in Godharmic and Arjun Global. I'm sure in any activity of any size and magnitude, we are faced with failures, with blockages of all kinds. Can you tell us, how do you feel if you're having a bad year or a bad or a specific failure in your activities in Godharmic versus global, Arjun Global? And do you find a different way of handling that, or do your teams react differently when you're faced with hardship in these two worlds?
Well, I dedicate around 90% of my time to Godharmic versus 10% to Arjun Global. So Arjun Global gets a lot less attention of mine to in comparison to Godharmic, and Godharmic is a larger organization and has a lot more responsibility for me. That's something, whereas Urgent Global is a necessity, and something that, because I never wanted to ever earn from my charity work. That was the path of giving. That was the place where you give and you serve, not take anything. And therefore I had to run the business to ensure that I was able to keep to that promise, and ensure that I wasn't losing out on ensuring my children and household and family well fed and well clothed and have opportunity and security for the future as well. So that's why I maintain the balance always between having that. But as time's gone on, it has lesser and lesser importance to me. But I still think I'm not a lover of poverty, right? I believe in prosperity. I think that we should all prosper. And therefore, I believe in maintaining that and ensuring that we can grow and benefit, and expand our horizons, and succeed together. So, yeah, with regards to failure, I believe failure is absolutely critical and important in both business and in charity, and just try to learn from each one. I do kind of think that the spiritual disposition gives you a staff in life where you can slam it into the ground, and that Ram Nam or the mantra or whatever you use gives you a stability where you are relatively unshakable, or it gives you the at least feeling of having that stability. So the storms do come every day, every week, sometimes much greater than others, but I feel that having that position of equanimity allows you to be in a storm and still operate effectively. And I feel that, whether it's like we experienced it, and you was absolutely phenomenal during the COVID crisis in India, when, people were literally dying around us, although we were not physically there, you in the US and me here in the UK, but we worked in a way that we stayed balanced. We made choices based on risk and reward that would help people in the moment of crisis. And I feel that ability to remain equanimous, make good decisions, and make some wrong choices is okay. If you don't act, then you won't go anywhere. So you have to make calls.
So is it true that given kind of all these emotions when you're working in the organization, delivering, at the end of the day, it's just like any other activity? Does the team or you never end up losing your cool, or is it more normal like some of our other business people, where we get stressed and the meetings can get tense, and sometimes even the voices can be raised? And how is it?
In GD, I don't think we've had a blaring argument in 10 years, which is incredible. Looking back at it, like, not consciously, I just think that in 10 years of us as GD working together, we haven't had a raised voice argument amongst the group in 10 years. And maybe that's, because of the premise of the organization is love. If we cannot love each other who are working in the organization and serving together, then we're emanating negative vibes externally, which is then we're putting that on them. I always remember from the trading floor, I used to run a group of 20 traders for Marex Spectron, a largest private brokerage in the world there. And I remember a French trader who used to sit behind me, and there was another English guy who was sitting next to him. And every time he lost money or made a bad choice in the market or made a wrong decision, would slam his desk and swear. Every time he used to slam his desk and swear all the time. And one day I just heard that French trader just say, hey, you mind not doing that and spreading your negative karma on all of us? And just that act of him swearing and, slamming the desk and just sending that vibration out amongst the rest of the people in the room, it gives a chilling noise, right? Like it gives a feeling of suffering or negativity or something. And that I always had that in my mind that, I don't want to emanate that into other people. Even if I feel frustrated or difficult or something, try to contain it, try not to grow that plant, and try to respect it and love it, witness it, honor it, and love it. And, maybe. So, yeah, I think that's part of our go Dharmic. We must go Dharmic ourselves first if we wish to request others.
Sure. Okay. Well, now we're to the section where I ask you some quick questions, and
Sure.
you just answer from your gut, whatever comes to your mind.
Okay.
If you were to get a nice gift for your wife, what would you give her?
Oh God, Sandeep, that's a difficult one. I hope my wife's not going to watch this now. And I think it would be an experience where we go out somewhere together. With everything that we do, we've got so much going on with BD and all the charity work, and just spending time away from children and family, and go out, the two of us, and enjoy ourselves. So I think it's that.
Experiential trip. Okay. If you could watch, if you had to watch the same movie 5 times in one day, which movie would it be?
Any Rocky movie.
Any Rocky movie? That's interesting. Harley Davidson or Ferrari?
Neither.
Neither.
I have to choose one, do I?
Yeah.
If I had to choose, Ferrari.
Okay. And is there another religion or practice that inspires you, something that brings back some emotion in you and connection?
I have a deep love of Sikhism and the modern practices of gurudwaras, of feeding anybody who comes to them regardless of background. So especially langar seva from gurudwaras. That deeply inspires me, and I hope that every religion can feed people in the way that the gurudwaras do.
Okay. This is the tricky one. You said dharma, arth, kam, moksha. What do you do to do enjoyment, kama?
I love cricket. I grew up playing cricket as a kid, just like pretty much every Indian. My best friend growing up was Monty Panesar, who went on to play for England. So we grew up playing cricket. I still follow it, still watch whenever I can.
I see. There's a movie on that, I think, right? That story. Yeah. Okay. All right, sir. We are to the end of our time. What is brand Hemal Randerwala or Hanuman Das in your own words? And of course, I know you're young, your brand is still evolving, but what is it right now and how are you shaping it?
For me, my life's mission is to embody love and compassion wherever possible, and wherever it's not, to work towards love and compassion. So if we can become a vehicle for that, and to keep widening my circle of my family to as wide a possible reaches possible. That's I'm writing a book which I've been working on for 5 years with Ram Dass, who took, inspired Steve Jobs to go to Neem Karoli Baba, and all of these people. I spent time with him in the US, and it's called Be Yourself. So it's very apt for this conversation with Brand Called You, because it's actually saying be yourself. But actually, the premise of the book is that we start with this root of you, but that expands to the whole world, like just that world behind you, the sunlit light that's there, but he's also the world. He's also the universe. So be yourself is to accept the brand of both the individual consciousness as well as the collective wide consciousness at the same time.
Well, there you have it, Hemal, the universal consciousness brand. That is what he aspires to. And that's a fantastic vision. Thank you so much for spending time with us, Hemal. All the best on your journey, and wish you the best.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.